Right here is a great question to ask yourself at every point in life. Are you wasting your money or investing it? Let's just be honest. Out of 100 people, well, I know the statistics, at least 95% of people, 95 out of 100 are not investing their money. Think back in the last year. Have you wasted money, significant amount of your income? Some people are going to say no. Maybe you're, every dime is going to taking care of your family or rent. But let's just be honest. Whenever people say that, I'm like, dig a little deeper. I bet you, almost every person, they have this thing called the 80-20 rule. Well, that 80-20 rule, you can reverse it too. And the reverse, the inverted rule, for example, is for sure 20% of your expenses could have been flipped into investments. And here's the difference. I'll give you an example. You go to a restaurant, right? You go to a restaurant, you spend $100, whatever it is. Now, what is that? An expense or an investment? This is kind of a trick question. $100 at a restaurant on food. What do we got? We got any? Oh, you got to turn the comments on.
Look at that right now.
We're live. I'm in London. It's late at night in London. So, or let's just do something easy, like you own a home and you make a payment on the home. Some of that goes to interest, which I would put as expense, and some of it's invested in the principal. So a home. This one's a tricky one right here. What do we think? Who says food is an investment? Because you could argue you're investing in yourself, you're investing in your life. Being alive, you need food, you need energy. Let's take a little poll here.
Twitter froze. It's going again.
Who cares about Twitter? Twitter's my least favorite live stream. Don't get all worked up about Twitter. Read me off some, Frank. What do we got? What are people saying? Investment or expense?
Food is definitely an investment.
Okay.
If you're overspending, it's an expense.
If you're overspending on food, so if you're eating fancy food, okay.
You could also invest in food to supply your community.
Well, if you're selling food, that's completely different. I'm actually launching a big food brand where we ship grass-fed beef and chicken, pork to your door, and that would be different, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Expense, it's a restaurant.
Expense, restaurant,
food is an expense.
Investment. So this one, I'm going to tell you what I think the answer. Obviously, this is a gray area, but you probably have a lot of gray areas in your life. So we got to define the gray areas because everybody knows, I didn't need that extra pair of designer pants. I didn't need to go on that, fancy trip or whatever. I could have saved that money. But gray areas. I'll tell you my answer to this. My answer is no, that is not an investment. Not in the definition that I'm about to give you, and you should memorize this definition right here. Because I think this is the best definition of what investing means. Best definition. Yeah, in the future, if Twitter ever is where Twitter is my least favorite.
Okay. Live
Stream. Sorry, Twitter. I like you for other stuff, but for live streaming, it's the most annoying one. Here's my definition of investing. It's postponing. It's two parts. So one, there has to be a postponing phase. Present pleasure. Triple P. Okay? But that's not alone. That's not enough. The second one is it has to create cash out of thin air. That's the real definition of an investment. I've been showing you can invest in businesses, you can invest in stock, you can invest in gold, you can invest in Bitcoin, you can invest in raw land, you can invest in education would be one, although I think most colleges overpriced. That's for another conversation. Or redundant or unnecessary what they teach, but it's got to, for an investment in my book, in my life, it has to be, there has to be a postponing aspect of it. I have to say, ooh, I wish I could do that, but then I don't. Almost always investments are that way. Because the reason people don't invest money and the reason you might be wasting money, because nobody ever taught you to postpone present pleasure. And maybe you do it a little bit, but do you do it enough when it comes to money? I meet a lot of people who got six packs now. They go to the gym all the time, which means they're postponing present pleasure of eating Big Macs and, they're cutting their carbs back and blah, blah. And, it's not always fun to work out, and they could be doing something else, laying on the couch watching Netflix, but instead they're postponing pleasure to get something better. So they're investing in their body, but when it comes to money, most of the people in the gym are broke. How do I know that? Well, most people at the gym are like, it's $75. I'm not going to go to that gym a month. Well, if you're doing what you need to do financially over time, $75 is going to be nothing. You're not going to care if a gym is $50 or $100 a month. You're going to go to the best gym for you. You're not going to be so cash strapped. But if you don't know how to invest, the rest of your life you're going to be counting pennies so close. And there's nothing wrong with being frugal, but you want to live with a margin of error. You do not want to count pennies on everything, because sometimes you get what you pay for. Sometimes you got to spend money to make money. So by postponing present pleasure, criteria number 1, but it has to be number 2 also. Okay? And this is why I don't think food falls into, I think food is its own category. It's more like sustenance. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you would call that physiological needs. Okay, that's not investment. That's like saying, okay, I breathe air and I'm investing my money. No, you're not investing your money. You're not investing anything. It's a necessity, and the game's over the second you stop eating and breathing air and sun. So, what creates cash out of thin air? I'll just give you an example. Like, I put $100,000 into a business in 2016. I'm just using this as one case study because I can show it to you on my phone. And right now, that one, let's see how much money it's made. That's all the cash I put in. I might have put in a little bit more. I've reinvested profits, but in terms of just cash outlay, here's a Stripe account. This is one company. I have an incubator. We're incubating like 10 different companies right now. This one's further along because it's made $23,000 today and $11.1 million in the last 12 months. First year did 5.5, and we doubled it in 1 year exactly to 11.1. It's kind of interesting. We exactly doubled it. We didn't mean to do that, but 100 grand into a business that's doubling every year. The companies, we raised some capital for it later on. It's probably worth $20 to $50 million. So that created cash out of thin air because I've only put in 1 hour a month into that business. Because your time and energy is an investment too. So to create cash out of thin air, it has to be passive somewhat. Passive. Now, I have active income too, but the best investments, if you can pull them off, are ones where you have relatively little time and energy. Okay, Flippin' Digits said this is pre-recorded. Flippy Digits. I should put criteria number 3. You have to have a brain to be able to invest. Instagram Live is definitely live right now. Todd's a good guy. I've met him. Almonte Chanel says. Dream Big says he does mostly small cap investments. I also do ETFs. Okay, so for those of you like the stock market, I'm just going to show you one other thing you got to factor in. This is a little bonus point. Number 3. Can they see this?
Yeah.
Number 3, bonus point. I wasn't even going to put this in, but here's why I don't like the stock market as much, okay? For me, it has to create wealth relatively young, okay? Now, people will argue with me on this. Some people will say, no, man, you invest in the stock market. But let me show you something. If you invest in the stock market, so let's say you invest in the stock market at, are you running this on a regular camera too? Or no? We're going to just use one of those?
Just these.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just say you invest in the stock market. This guy said on YouTube Live, I have my cowlick sticking up. My camera crew's telling me. That's how you know it's late. Oh, there it is. Dang, I can't find it. There it is. I think I fixed it. Here's a chart of your life with money. So here's the day you're born. You probably don't have much money, right? Here's how much money you have, and here's your life. Here's the end of your life. Let's say you live to 100. And here, let's say this is $1 million a year or something like that. Or whatever, just say $1 million, just to use round numbers. I know some of you want to make more than that. So when you're 0, you probably have about $0, and it goes real low, and then you get 18 or 16 or whatever. I got my first job around like actual job, I think at 16 at Office America. It was like Office Depot. It's gone bankrupt like all these companies are doing now. So I went up and I made like $6 an hour or something. And you go up to there. This is like $6 an hour. This is like $1 million a year or whatever. And then they tell you to go to school. So let's say it actually stays low. You go to college. You can't work that much when you're in college. Then you get your first job here. Let's say you're 25 or something, 24. You get your first real job, and now you're going up and you're making whatever, 50 grand a year. So you feel a little better. There's a rise right here. But watch this. The average job in the world, well, specifically America, I won't speak to the whole world, you get a raise of about 3% a year. Okay, that's the average raise in the world. So what that means is there's a little law called a rule called the rule of 72. That means you divide the percentage of raise into 72. 72 divided by 3 is what? Roughly 25. That means for you, let's say you start at 50 grand, for you to get to 100 grand a year, on average with a job, will take you 25 years. So that means this thing, you jump up here, but then it's like really, really slow. And now look, you're halfway through your whole life. And you're not, you're like 50s. And now you've doubled, what did I say? Let's say you double to 100 grand. So that's not that good. I mean, it's better than going backwards, but I got one more piece of bad news that they don't teach you in school. The cost of living goes up at 3%. So that means, yes, 25 years later, you're making 100 grand, but 100 grand hardly pays the bills. Because now, think how much food's going up. My grandpa told me that when he was a little kid, he could buy whatever, like 10 cents. What was that we just heard on Crank Yankers? He's like, I could buy 3 hot dogs for 5 cents.
With the fixins.
That's how the world's changing. You used to go to a movie for a nickel. Now movies are like $22 if you go to these luxury ones. It's like from a nickel or a quarter. And that's going to keep happening. Inflation's been going on almost forever. Sometimes there's a little deflation, but that means you get no raise in life. The average person, whatever they're stuck in their first career, they pretty much stay at that income level forever. So that's not investing. That's not investing. The stock market, let's just say some of you think you're really good with the stock market. So you invest in the stock market, and let's say you get 9% a year. Okay, this is a fake number. 9% a year minus transaction fees, which are, let's gonna say 1% minimum. Even things like ETFs, mutual funds, they got even no load funds have so now you're down to 8%. This is on a good year. Now, so we're going down. Let's say it has dividends, it's not held in a retirement account, you owe taxes. That's like 2% off that. I mean, it's more than 2%, it's like 30% of 8, which is like 2.5. So now you're at like 6%. So now you got a little bit less. And let's say you have a money manager managing it for you at 1%. So now you're at 5%. Remember what I said here? Inflation's 3%. So the real gain is 2% a year, which means your money's actually growing above the cost of living. Most people invest in the stock market at 2%. So again, it takes you 36 years to double your actual net worth. That's why I don't love the stock market. I'm not saying you shouldn't do the stock market. You can do it, especially with your 401k and retirement plans. You get government benefits. But the point is, you ain't making money, create wealth relatively young. You want to be relatively young when you have money. You don't want to be 95. I live in Beverly Hills. It's full of 95-year-olds with Ferraris. What's the point? Why do you want to have a Ferrari when you're 95? You can't even get in and out of it. You know? You'd rather have it in your 30s or 20s if you could. I got my first car, nice car, Italian car, like in my 20s. So, someone's arguing about YouTube comments, crack me up. Okay, what about stocks like PBR, Brazil oil? You haven't been in this game long enough. Everything that goes up must come down. So the kind of investment I like to do, this is what I think is the best investment. So instead of wasting your money, this is what I think you should do. This is what I do. I just gave you an example of turning 100K. Now, we haven't sold the business, but it still spins off crazy cash. I mean, this business is like 1,000% return in 1.5 years. Let's just be conservative, 10 million or something. Turning 100 grand into 10 million in under 2 years, that's more interesting to me. Okay? Again, people are going to argue with me. This takes more skill to do. Not everyone could do this. But is there a person on the planet would argue they would rather have 100 grand grow into 200 grand over 25 years? Double in 25 years, or go up 100 times? 100 times in 2 years. Which one's getting you wealthy relatively young? You gotta ask yourself that. Who saw this Snapchat that I posted where I was at a club yesterday in London called Libertine? I just happened to know when I walked in the club, I heard him say on the thing, DJ Who Kid. So I didn't know he's a resident DJ there, and I'm a friend of his, so we went, checked out the club. It was kind of cool up in the DJ booth. It's the most packed club, man. London packs out these clubs. But on the way out, I saw my friend Chin. And Chin went from homeless to making $130,000 a month. I want you to stop and think about that for a second. I've known him for a while, too. I just have lost touch with him because he moved to London and I'm still in the U.S. From homeless to making 100. Right now, I told him to, because we were on camera, I said massively under brag about your income. So we cut the real numbers way higher, but we just said on camera, 130,000 a month. Now that's not all profit, but it's like half profit or whatever. How did he do that? He invested $100, or $1,000 or less, and now he's making that much, basically 3 times a day, making about $3,000 a day. Invested three. That's the kind of investment that I'm talking about. That's the kind of investment that I like to do. You can do whatever you want. I'm putting my bet there to do that. Somebody said Warren Buffett is like the only person out of the top 100 richest people who made his money through stocks. Warren Buffett doesn't even make his money regular stock trading. He buys the whole company. For the most part, he buys controlling shares of Bank of America, of Coca-Cola, of Amex. So he's not a regular. Don't ever say, oh, Warren Buffett does stocks. He doesn't do stocks like you're doing in your 401k or your TD Ameritrade or whatever. He's doing big boy stuff. Like he buys like 10 million shares of Apple at a time. He buys it in big blocks. So I think Richard said, does Chin do your SMMA? Yeah, he does an SMMA program, social media marketing agency. That's why I've been telling people the best investments are, so this is how you should invest. If you want my opinion, lots of opinions out there, but most people, their opinion is just that. It's just opinion. I'm showing you revenue. I'm showing you money. This is real money. $23,000, and we probably spent about $10,000 on marketing. That's 13 grand net today. The day's not over, and I don't even look at this. I set up a company that has a CEO, and they're all paid out of the company. I put 100 grand in 2 years ago, and that thing built, that's not even my main source of income. That's not my main income. That's not my highest source of income today. What app is that? That's Stripe. We process payments for that company on Stripe. So 980 payments today, 283 customers. We have right around 70,000 people on recurring annual or monthly or quarterly rebills, but they're actively paying. So that's a lot. That's how you get, that's how you make, that's how I invest my money. Do whatever you want. You can invest like your grandma did. And I'm not saying, I keep a little money in the stock market. Okay? Just a little bit. I like real estate. I keep money in real estate. But if you look at all the ways that you could invest, instead of wasting your money on, overpriced stuff, eventually you can buy the overpriced stuff. Eventually you can get the Lamborghini. But you first got to make the money. No money, no honey. Boom, boom, boom. So let's just take 4 ways. You can hold your money in cash. You can go in the stock market. You can go in real estate. Those are 4 big categories of investing your money. Stock market. This includes funds and bonds. This is just traditional cash. Keep it at your bank. Gold, I would put over there. But right here, this is the magic one, if you ask me. And this is active investing. Now, but it's a hybrid because it's also passive. So I call it active passive. It's a new word. I mean, no one uses that phrase, so I kind of invented it. It's not active. It's not passive. It's active passive. It's hybrid. It's hybrid. I put in $100,000. The first couple of weeks of Mentor Box, the company I showed you, I was actively involved for probably the first month. And then each month after that, I spent less time on it. We hired people, we hired, operations people and all these little components, the marketing people, we put it all together. And then within 6 months, I was doing nothing. Literally nothing. I probably went 6 months without even looking at it once, besides looking at the books and the accounting once a quarter. So, is it passive? Well, I did spend some time setting it up. Is it active? All I could tell you is, if you follow this formula and you do it right, this is, if you don't believe me, let's pull up Zach, the Forbes list. The 100 wealthiest people in the world, but only the self-made ones, not the ones who inherited. I know who's on the top. It's Jeff Bezos, right? So he invested, I know the number. He put some of his money and some of his mom's money, or parents' money, I think it was $350,000 he put into Amazon to start it. And he was active. He's been pretty active in that business. Now he's also raised capital from outside. It's also a stock, so it's a little bit like this, hybridized with this. And they even own real estate now. They're buying up. So he's and he has a lot of cash. So over time, you learn to invest in all 4 categories. He has active part of it. He has a passive part. Bill Gates the same way. Warren Buffett the same way. Warren Buffett is the ultimate example of active and passive. He has 100 different sources of income. You can go on his Wikipedia page, see every source of income, every company that he owns shares, controlling or minority or majority shares in. And they did $200 billion in revenue, and he has $100 billion in cash. Last time I heard, he's publicly traded, so it's part of the stock market. He's active. He's also passive, though. He checks on each of his sources of income once a month. He makes 1 phone call to the CEO, 1 hour a month. May each of you become like freaking Warren Buffett, because he's the man. He works the least amount of stressful hours and makes just as much money as everybody else. Even like Jeff Bezos, it's all about the same. You're not going to tell the difference if you have 80 billion or 120 billion or something. It's not like you can buy more stuff. That 40 billion, you're good. So you guys got to get more right here, man. You got to get right here. You got to get right here. Right here. This hybrid is where you need to be. So how do you do the hybrid? Simple, but not always easy, because a lot of people procrastinate. If you don't procrastinate, it's easy. So here's how you do the active passive. You got let's say you have $1,000 or whatever number. I recommend you invest it 3 different ways. Number 1, training. Now notice I don't use the word college degree. I don't even use the word education. I like the word education, but like, is YouTube lagging?
Yeah.
It is. I'm checking it right now.
That's all right. We'll just repost. For all of you on YouTube, we'll just repost it later. Spend it on training. See, a lot of college and high school is not training. It's education, but it is not training. And there's a big difference. I'll give you an example. Let's say you want to learn to play basketball. I can educate you about basketball. I can be like, well, in the 1800s, James Naismith in, what was it, Illinois or something? Invented the rules. He was a school teacher or a principal or something of it. So I'm educating you about basketball. But you don't know how to play. You know how many players in the NBA don't know the history? They're not educated about basketball. But they can dunk the ball, they can shoot the ball, and they can collect a check for, let's see, Chris Paul. I'm friends with Chris Paul. He just signed, what was his contract? $150 million or something for 4 years? That's money. That's 30 mil plus a year. Okay? Who cares? The education isn't what got him there. It's the training. It's the drills. You know, it's the coaches and the mentors that told them, all right, let's practice right hand drill, left hand, doing it, going into the fight of life. And so you need to invest money in training. If it's education, you can do it cheap. You can buy a book for $10. But training, you got to pay a little bit more for. Okay? So that's the first thing. I would invest some of that money in training. It could be books, it could be conferences, it can be seminars, it can be, intensive workshops, it can be on mentors, it can be traveling to people. My first $18,000 that I made in profit when I was like 20 years old, I used it. I traveled around the world. I met 2 mentors in New Zealand, Gary Townsend. Well, Gary Townsend was the main guy. Then I went to Tasmania, Australia, learned from a guy named Bill Mollison, the founder of permaculture. I went to Ireland, learned from a guy named Mike Murphy. I came back to the United States, went to Mississippi, learned from Dr. Gordon Hazard and Alan Nation. So I used the money to train under these people. I was actually there, like, what are you doing? Let me help in the business. Like, I was like an intern, basically. But they didn't have an internship program, so I had to pay to be there. And I ran out of money, actually, when I was in New Zealand. That's when I started shearing sheep to save up enough money to get myself out of that country. So that's number one. Then number two, you need a little seed capital to start most businesses. But the good news is I can show you multiple businesses you can start for less than $1,000. So you do need to, instead of wasting all your money, you need some money for training, to pay trainers or mentors or authors of books or conference speakers or whatever. You need some seed capital, okay, right? And then number three, you need some reserves, although, when you start out, they call it bootstrapping. Sometimes you don't have enough for this third one. So you at least spend your money on these two. For example, my first $1,000 I had, I got a job with a guy named Mike Steinbach in Raleigh, North Carolina. This was when I was still basically homeless. I was sleeping on a couch in a mobile home. I saved up $1,000. I found an online training course by a guy named Corey Rudel, who's dead now. He died in a car crash. He made so much money. He bought a fleet of Porsches, got too fast one time, and I never got to meet him and thank him. I wish I could have. Since then, I've met a lot. He died in like 2008 or something in San Diego. Crashed into a cliff with a Porsche going, 150 miles an hour. And I invested in his training, and he had different levels, and I paid like $500. And I got a package in the mail after I spent that money. This is before you could get training online, and it was like a 3-ring binder. And it was all this training on how to do internet marketing, how to do Google advertising, how to do YouTube. Well, YouTube wasn't there, but Google ads was the equivalent. Google bought YouTube later. So I just started right then, and that $500 training course, I had a little bit of money left over, or I saved up another $500. That was my seed capital. I invested that on ad. I made a website for like $50, $100. Bought a domain name for $8. I built a website. It was called Life Insurance Tricks. I think we still have it up. It's a company I sold. I don't own it anymore, but I think they keep it up. LifeInsuranceTricks.com. It was a whole system. I had an educational blog so that people could buy life insurance because there was not much education online. But I learned how to do it from this Corey Rudel training program. And people don't realize life insurance in America is a $5 trillion industry. Trillion. Assets that insurance companies hold. It's massive business. So I learned, I didn't know that growing up. I learned from Corey Rudel how to do advertising. I invested $500 in advertising my blog, lifeinsurancetricks.com. And within 9 months, I went from having $1,000 to making $100,000 a year, which allowed me then to start saving some reserves. $100,000 a year, and I was making between $8,000 and $10,000 a month, and this is like more than 10 years ago. This is quite a bit. This is like when Google AdWords first came out. I remember I started as an entrepreneur as a teenager. People don't realize I started young, and that's why. For those of you who are young, it ain't too young to start. You could have started. Bill Gates started at 12. Warren Buffett started at 7. So, someone keeps breathing on camera. Are you guys breathing into the camera, or is that me?
It's reading on the camera.
No. Then he changed it to breathing.
Oh.
Believe it or not, I probably might be breathing because I won't do so well on this live call if I stop breathing. For all of you on YouTube, if it gets glitchy, it's YouTube's fault. Just go. William says, go to Facebook or Instagram. William says, no one uses blogs anymore, Ty. I know that. But I made millions when they did. And then I moved to the next thing. I invested in more training. In 2008, I learned Facebook ads. I'm one of the first people to ever do Facebook ads. In 2014, I started doing YouTube. I was one of the first people to do YouTube ads. There was a few people before me, but none as big as me. And that's another thing I don't even have time to talk about, which is catching trends. You got to catch trends at the right time. And if you snooze, it's kind of like Bitcoin. I see someone asking about Bitcoin. You got to catch the timing. Some people, I have a friend that I knew before Bitcoin was invented, and now he's on the Forbes list from Bitcoin. He's the head of the Bitcoin Foundation. I got a video, Brock Pierce. But you had to catch it at the right time. A lot of people were sitting there because they didn't have the training. They didn't understand how to catch trends. They missed that trend. They missed the YouTube trend. They missed Facebook trend. They missed it. You could have started Amazon. It's not very complicated. It was a website selling books. Started that way. Simple website. So everything that's out there is just like, hey, are you following? I'm giving you guys the 1, 2, 3 practical formula. You got to find the training, okay? And you have to find trainers. And people go, well, can you train us right now on camera? Well, it depends what you want to do. You want to get in the restaurant business? You got to invest money in If I wanted to name any business, let me just pick one live. Any industry, legit industry that I'm not in, I'll show you how I would invest my money and get into that. And I would try to make 100x on my money in under 5 years, ideally. Remember, we talked about the different rules. You got to do it when you're young enough to enjoy it. It's okay to do the stock market. It's okay to do these other things. But let's just see. Cinema, somebody said. Okay. Weed. Okay. Video games. Joe Cartesano on Facebook. Consulting. Music. Restaurant. Somebody put traffic. The business of creating traffic. Clothing doesn't work, somebody said. It's saturated. Not true. The guy who started Fashion Nova, went online only a few years ago. I think he did $500 million last year. 400 or 500 million. E-commerce. Can another crypto bull run happen? Of course. Social media. Healthy fast food. Okay. Let me just randomly pick one here without thinking about it too much. Land. I won't say farming and land because I'm already doing that. I want to give one I'm not doing it. Meats, somebody said. Protein bar. Okay, I like that one. I'm tempted to dabble in that business. Okay. Let's just say you can make a better snack bar. If you've seen I got a video where this is a perfect example. Training. I invest money in training. So Tom Bilyow is a friend of mine, but I didn't know him that well and got to know him. And I invested a little money. I didn't pay him to become friends or anything like that. We just met
at a conference in Las Vegas, Thrive conference one year, and then we just kind of kept up. But I spent money. He came over. He was on my podcast. I was on his show. You might have seen it. Kind of went viral. He just interviewed me after I interviewed him. But I believe in this principle of like being trained. He has a company called Quest Bars, which is massive. I can't remember how many bars they do a day. It's like 100,000 a day or a week or something they sell. It's a massive market. And so I go to my assistant and my cousin Maya. I go, I got to invest money to be trained to learn more about the snack food industry. So there was a Laker game available. And I go, Tom, you want to go to a Laker game? Maya said, we can get tickets. Tickets are like 10 grand. But I invested that money so I could take the time out and really get to know Tom. You know, it's better to do business networking and doing something enjoyable. That's a little tip for networking. Don't invite people to your conference room and say, hey, you want to talk business? No one wants to talk business 24/7. And so I spent money, let's say $10,000 on investing and just learning from him. And then the second thing, what's the second thing you got to do? You got to have some seed capital. So I've actually got a VC, my own VC fund, and we're investing $25,000 into a new company. It's not out yet, but I guess they're called Ben's Bars. It's not a competitor with Quest Bar or anything like that. It's a different concept. And again, that's not why I became friends with Tom. It was an afterthought. And I told him, I was like, hey, Tom, we've been working on a little bar company. I doubt it'll become as big as Quest Bars. He hit that, that company's $1 billion company. And then number 3, as this gets going, hopefully you'll have some reserves. So that formula I use for everything. Anything I want to learn. If I want to get into fashion, if I want to get into, we got a meal replacement drink. We launched a fashion brand called A-B. A-B. A-B stands for A Better Man. It's a men's clothing line. So again, this investing formula, you need to learn this because you want to get crazy returns. Now, a little side note, because I got to go. It's late at night here in London. You got 2.5 days left. You got less than 72 hours. I've got the perfect thing for those of you who don't already know what you want to do. Some of you know what you want to do. You want to do a restaurant, you want to do fashion. For those of you who do not know what you should invest your money in, the 1, 2, 3 formula, okay? If you don't know what to invest in, you're like, yeah, Tai, I'll invest in training, but in what? What do I need seed capital for? And 3, how do I build some cash reserve so I have some money for a rainy day? I'll give you an exact formula. You got to watch this video. I'm going to put a link below or in the corners. I'll put a link up on here on the board. Go watch this training. I don't have time to do it right now, but I want to train about half of you do not really have a good idea. Some of you have an idea you think's a good idea, but I can promise you it's not going to make any money. So I'm going to train you in building a marketing agency, a social media marketing agency. I've trained more people than anyone in history on this subject. There's some other people that have done it, but no university's done it. Trained marketing agency like this, not especially with social media emphasis. You can start the trainings under $500. If you have $1,000, you can get started with under $500. Nicholas Kirshner, you probably saw him last week on my social media. He started with $500. Back then, my training was $1,000. Right now, for the next 2.5 days, I'm basically doing a scholarship. So that's why I said you got 2.5 days if you want, and you can get in. We have a payment plan. Like if you can't afford it, you can do it under $200. And then he took $1,000 plus $100. That was his seed capital, and he's making $300,000 a year, $350, netting $250, 80% profit margin. Chin Gregory, that I just posted on my Snapchat, you can still see it on my story right now. That's at Tai Lopez. I got a verified Snap. If you're not, don't follow me on Snap, we'll post, I think it might be on my Insta story too, at Tai Lopez. And it's insane. He went from homeless following this formula that I'm going to teach you on a social, investing time and energy into getting trained and into initial seed capital. He turned it into, he does marketing for luxury brands. He's got 7 clients only. His average retainer, he charges them $15,000 a month. I think he has a restaurant. He has a men's clothing line. He has like a vodka line. He has all these. He does Facebook ads for them. He does their email. He helps them optimize their social media and their website. And his average retainer is $15,000 a month. And he has some more, right? And he has 7 clients. Only 7. That makes him, over $100,000 a month. A month. And he doesn't have many employees. So his expenses are low. And you don't have to keep marketing to get new 7 clients you can just get by actually talking. So I got a 2.0 version of this training. I started this training in 2016, trained over 25,000 people in 90 countries. And now I'm rolling out a twice as good version for half the price so that I can help more people. Once I saw I was helping so many people, and I'm actually, this week I'm recording with Chin. He's going to give, I wasn't even planning to put this in, but as a bonus for those who are getting in, I'm going to have Chin show you his A to Z formula. How he went from homeless, he was sleeping on a park bench. He's from the rough part of, I think he's from London. London got some real poverty here. Europe, people think Europe's rich. There's real poverty all throughout Europe. Some countries more than others, but he was sleeping on a park bench at one point. He said another point, he got off the park bench and a church let him sleep there. And he went and now making $130,000 a month, and that's lowball. I didn't even want to put his. I tell people never. People always ask what my net worth is, what my income. Never say what it is. Say a small percentage of it. For those of you who are lucky enough to make $100 million, tell everybody you're worth $10 million. Who cares? If life's not about bragging rights. It's about having the money so you can do whatever you want. Who cares? It's better for people to think you have less money. They won't sue you as much. That's another thing. I was talking to Chin. You got to start watching it now. You start making $100,000 a month, you become a target. So that's he's making a lot more than that. A lot. Questions. Okay, let me put the link up real quick. It should be it's on the Facebook Live, the YouTube Live. It's in the description or the title or a pinned comment, Twitter and Instagram. If you don't see it, you got less than 72 hours. This link will no longer work. This is a special discount link. Okay? SMMA2, because this is the 2.0 version, live. TaiLopez.com/SMMA2 live. Go there. You have less than 72 hours, less than 3 days. You snooze, you lose. Then the price will go up. Okay? We only do these scholarships occasionally. Raymond says he's making $350 a month, looking at $400K this month. Congratulations, man. It's all, you just stone the thing up. I remember where I was like, I wonder if I can make $100,000 a year, and then I did, and then I was like, I wonder if I can make $100,000 a month, and I was like, whoa, I figured it out, and then I made $100,000 a week, and then you make $100,000 a day, and I've made $1 million in an hour. I haven't been able to do that consistently, unfortunately, but there's always a level above. Life has levels. Don't ever get cocky, because someone's always making more and someone's always making less. Okay. How do you overcome, Oscar Gonzalez, great question on YouTube. How do you overcome the fear of getting your first client in this SMMA 2.0 live training? For those who get in, I just created exact scripts. You can just use my exact formula. Basically, you need to know what time of the day to approach them at. That's a key thing. You go at the wrong time of the day, and businesses say no. So I talk about for each type of business, what the best time of the day to go, what to say if it's your first client, because you got to say, once you have 5 or 10 clients, you can show them a portfolio. See, here's my happy clients. But the first one seems to be the hardest, but I'll show you an exact phrase. I actually learned this from my uncle, who was a car salesman. I learned this when I was like 20. Believe it or not, it still works to this day. I will give you the exact script, okay? to say that takes your inexperience and pivots it into like them going, ooh, I'd rather work with you. You basically got to position why it's better to work with somebody who has no other clients, because I'll give you a hint why. You got more time to focus on them. See? You always position around your weakness and turn it into a strength. I'll show you these ninja closing techniques, and I know how to sell. I know how to sell, okay? And I will show you those ninja techniques. Second thing, now, you're already getting the SMMA 1.0, which is 50 hours of training from myself and the top social media agent, my top students. I made a millionaire out of the person that went in the first day that I opened in 2016. Made 1.2 million his first year. Now that's rare, so I'm not promising everybody's going to do that, but lots of people start making 6 figures and 50 grand a year and 100 grand a year on the side while they still had their other source of income too. This doesn't have to be your only source of income. But I got Joe Soto is one of the big teachers in there. He's been making over $1 million a year. He's got 6 kids, lives in Washington, D.C. He has restaurants. He has all these different clients. So you're going to get all 1.0. Plus, in the 2.0 version, I'm also going to teach you what we've learned in the last 2 years, the do's and don'ts of what type of businesses you should not approach because they're just going to waste your time. They're never going to sign a contract with you. We train you how much to charge them, who to avoid, and who to go after, and the best strategies. There's only about 5 or 10 different industries I would go after. Like, I would not go after, I don't know, a lawnmower company. You could do it, but if it was, somebody will prove me wrong. I'm just saying, if it was me starting out, I'd go after dentists. I'd go after cosmetic surgeons. They got big money to spend. I'd go after lawyers. Dude, lawyers can make on one case $1 million. So if you generate one lead for them using internet marketing, social media marketing, one lead, and they pay you $1,000 to $10,000, you could charge them 10 grand a month just for your strategy and just for your time. And a lot of these average lawyer, they make $100,000 if they're doing car accidents or personal injury. So I would go after stuff that has great margins. I'm going to teach you how to do that. And then the third part of this 2.0, how to expand. You don't want to just have a social media marketing agency. You want to use that to actually get companies to make you business partners. So that if they sell their fashion brand for $100 million, you get a little piece of it. So not just getting paid in dollars. I'll tell you a true story. There was a guy. He went to a company. He was a painter. They wanted him to paint the walls so that the walls would, not like white paint, but like he was an artist. So he drew like graffiti and all this, and they said, we're a little short on cash. We owe you $10,000. We'll pay you. Or you can take a little bit of cash, and we'll give you shares in our company. And this guy was smart. He postponed present pleasure, like I talked about at the beginning, and he said, okay, I'll take like shares. I forget how many shares. Guess what that company was? Guess who that kid was who offered it to him? Mark Zuckerberg. Said, you want to have some of the first shares of Facebook? You know how much that guy's worth to this day? You can Google him. He lives in Los Angeles in Koreatown. That paint job, $300 million. I want to teach you the $300 million formula. Now, I'm not going to say it's all... I hope you get a business that's $300 million, but imagine you use the formula in SMMA 2.0 and you start going to all these businesses and say, you know what? I'm going to charge you $5,000 a month for this or $2,500 a month. But give me a percentage, give me some shares, make me a business partner, put me on your board. Now, you don't want to do that on day one, but once you've proven your skill and your worth, 1 out of every 5 customers will do that. They will. They'd rather have, especially if it's a new product, things like that. You can't do it with doctors per se because it's against the law unless you're a medical doctor, but there's lots of businesses you can do that with. Anything else besides a lawyer or a doctor. You could do it with people in real estate. You can do it with people, especially real estate investing. You could tell a guy who's buying real estate and flipping it and needs buyers, you go, I'll do the ads for you. I'll do the social media marketing, generate buyers for the place. Give me 5% of every piece of real estate you flip. Right there. I'm giving you guys formulas to make you $1 million. Sometimes people are like, Tai, give us something like right now. I'm just like giving you that for free. Just imagine that. You sell somebody. I know a lady who's in my business mastermind. She flips homes all day long. She buys them she puts down like 10 to 20,000 cash, finances the rest, flips them, makes doubles her money every 3 months, and she's got 18 deals going at any given time. She does 10 to 15 deals a month, and she's making, she's a millionaire. Imagine if but she needs help. She needs more buyers. She needs more investors. She needs to find more properties. I'll train you in this program how to do the social media marketing, even if you know nothing. All you need, your only piece of experience you need internet connection and you need a laptop. Okay? Last questions before I got to go. Ali said, Tai, you're giving us top-notch material by being you. Chin actually, he follows me and he learns techniques. You can learn. There's people online that are good at marketing, not just me. There's other people that are good online. You can learn from them, and then you offer to do that for businesses, and they pay you money. It's that simple. There's 80 million businesses in the world. They almost all suck at their social media. Go anywhere I can prove it. Biggest brand in the world sucks at social media. This is the biggest brand in the world sucks. The biggest. I look at this like once a week and I'm just blown away. It's like, okay, Coca-Cola, you have 2.5 million followers. I got 2.7. Coca-Cola has been around 100 years. Their last post, they haven't posted in 6 weeks. Their last video they posted got 170,000 views, and that was July 23rd. My last video I posted yesterday has 238,000 views. That's in 24. I mean, Coca-Cola could be the best in the world. Maybe one of you will get Coca-Cola as a client. You know the guy who, the agency, the marketing agency that did the Coca-Cola polar bear advertising, they charged $14 million for the concept of a polar bear. That's all they gave him. A drawing and a simple marketing campaign. 14 mil Coca-Cola paid. How'd you like to get that check? So, okay. Alida said, I've been watching for more than a year. Thank you. To use PayPal with Stripe. Sometimes we'll use PayPal. You need lots of capital to get where you're talking about. Jonathan, you have not been listening. You lose points. Because, Chin went from homeless to make $130,000 a month and started. None of my students have started with more than $2,000. The ones who became millionaires. Just think about that for a second. The ones who became millionaires, none of them started with more than $2,000. You know how much it costs to just get a college degree? Even if you live in Europe where it's supposed to be free, nothing's free. You got to pay for, you got 4 years of time. That's opportunity cost. You could have been doing something. So, someone said, when are you going to put the real estate course up again? We have a real estate training, but it's closed. That's why I tell people, when I open these up, pay attention, go in. Now, if you can't, if you don't have the money to do it, well, let it be a lesson. You're going to miss a big opportunity. And sometimes you have to learn the hard way. Oscar said, Tai, learned more in this program and reading than school ever taught me. I hear a lot of people say stuff like that. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to school. I'm just saying use your brain. Use your brain. Look at all the richest people in the world. Almost the majority of them dropped out of college. Or they have basic degrees. Warren Buffett's an exception, but Zuckerberg dropped out of Harvard. Bill Gates was the richest man in the world for 17 straight years. He dropped out of Harvard. I'm not saying you should drop. Dropping out is not what makes you wealthy. It's just school sometimes wastes people's time and educates them, but doesn't train them. If you can find a college that trains you, but you're not going to find a college that trains you in social media marketing. I know, because it's funny, some of the top universities in the world, they use my videos to teach. I get kids send me videos. Look, my professor is teaching. That's because the professor doesn't do it. Learn from people who do stuff. You want to learn from play basketball? Learn from somebody who plays basketball.
Tell me drinking.
Somebody said, Tai, all the billionaires that dropped out were geniuses to begin with. Very high IQ, folks. That's something to consider. I would say yes and no. At the very top of the Forbes list, yes. But that just shows you education is not correlated. Huh?
Tell them you're drinking water. You got a lot of comments saying like.
Oh, you think I'm drinking alcohol? I could be. We'll just let them be in suspense. Yes, I'm drinking this much vodka live.
God bless the Ruskies.
God bless the Ruskies. They didn't invent whiskey. Or vodka, I should say. Nah, that's not. Yes, the average billionaire has high IQ, but if you go to read a book called Millionaire Next Door, the average millionaire has an average, just slightly above average IQ. So if you're slightly sharper than the average person, you don't have to be a genius to become a multimillionaire. This is not a course on how. I'm not saying you're going to become a billionaire. No one's become a billionaire from this. It's almost impossible to become a billionaire from a social media marketing agency. I'm hoping that some of you will be satisfied with less than $1 billion. And you can use this for a stepping stone to do other stuff. As I told you, the $300 million trick that the guy did by getting shares in company for doing simple services for them, that almost made him a billionaire. Okay. I think I'm going to go. So click the link in the corner if you're watching on my website, down below in the description. If you're watching on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, it should be a pinned comment. It should be somewhere. If you don't see it anywhere, go here. TaiLopez.com/SMMA2 live. SMMA2 live. And you got less than 72 hours. I'll take one more question. Is dropshipping even an option anymore? For sure. Dropshipping, the principle is not dropshipping, it's e-commerce. But dropshipping is a step, you know? What else? Man, it's so weird how Facebook comments are now. What motivates you, Ty? Adventure and freedom, man. Like I said, I'm here in London. I hope each of you get your income up enough that you pretty much just do whatever you want. Wander the earth, enjoying life. It won't all be sunny days, but make sure that there's a lot more sunny days than rainy days. Okay? So, let me read off the names. I fixed my email while I was here, so I can read the names of people getting in the scholarship group before it's closed. All right, Aaron Jackson, welcome to the group from Indiana. He got in, he did the payment plan option. There's two options. You save a little by paying it all. Duke Wesson, watching on Instagram Live. I got a little tracking there. It's not weird tracking, I'm not tracking you. It just, if you click the link on Instagram, it tracks that you paid from Instagram. From New Jersey, welcome to the group. Lizette Torres, female, Nevada. Trey Kennedy, right here from Georgia. Welcome to the group. Don't know if you're male or female, doesn't matter. Dat Nguyen, here we go, from Western Australia. That's cool. I was just in Australia. I went with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I got to speak with him. Me and him were speakers in Melbourne. I mean, he was the main speaker, but I was the other speaker. Missouri. We got James Noonan. Welcome to the group. Did the payment plan. We got, I can do this all day. Tyler Paterick, Wisconsin. Watching live on YouTube. Welcome to the group. I need to be saying your name. Nabel Akhtar from, looks like India. Province of Sindh. I don't know. Sindh. I've been to India once. DeAndre Evans, Florida. YouTube. Welcome to the group. Got lots of you coming in. I'm not going to be able to read all these. Bob Chavez, Instagram, Texas. Welcome, my friend. Mathila Raman from New York. Not sure what city. Welcome. All right. I want to read off your name. I wish I had more time to read, but Instagram's going to cut off right in a few minutes. So click the link. You got less than 72 hours. Get in now. Scholarship will help you out. I'll pick up some of the cost. Yeah. Snooze, you lose. But the opposite of that is you take action and you get reward. I hope you get rewarded financially. Okay? Good night. Somebody said...